some analysis and rolling coverage for you as those results trickle in. We're unpacking some of the issues left over from the local government elections in 2016, just to give us some context for how these polls are taking place in 2021. My co-anchor Ayanda Nyathi is on the IEC's results operation floor. Let's take you over there now.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Michelle. And yeah, we're still watching these results trickle in. Again, it's still a bit too early to tell how this election will actually fare out. But as you've been discussing at length, among the many considerations to be made, the many concerns being ventilated today is around this idea of low voter turnout. Depending how many people actually rock up to vote, this actually has an impact, a direct bearing on how some political parties actually fare. So with that in mind, let's get you an idea of how the AIC is feeling, the African Independent Congress. And for that discussion, we're joined by our guest, the Secretary-General of the AIC, that's Margaret Arnolds. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Really do appreciate your time on Newzroom Afrika. Let's start there. A lot of conversations around how many people actually rocked up to cast their ballots. How concerned are you as the AIC about that?
Good morning to you and good morning to the viewers. Let me just rectify something. I am the acting Treasurer-General and not the Secretary-General. Yeah, I think it's sad that we have so little voter turnout and that people decided just not to come and vote. You know, I've seen yesterday, after being in a meeting here and after I voted, I went to one of the malls, and the malls were full as if tomorrow was Christmas. And it was really bad, because I stopped and I asked a few people, and people were saying, no, we're not going to vote. We'd rather come and do our shopping and do things like that. We're not going to vote. One of the ladies that works in a shop said to me, I'd rather do my job than go and vote. To me, that sent out a signal that people are protesting. People are angry, and people believe that they did not get the services that they deserve. Thus, they are protesting and saying, we won't go and vote.
What do you say to individuals who are pointing towards politicians for the low voter turnout? They're saying that politicians have really failed to capture the imagination of the electorate, and that's why some people were just disinterested with even engaging with the process.
Yeah, I think that there's also another factor to all this. It's one is that people do not want to vote because they believe that they're giving the wrong people the mandate. Nobody has proven to be the right political party. But on the other side, we also know what happened with this elections. This elections, all of us thought, and I'm sure the IEC was ready to have it in February. And this was a rush thing. I mean, I've been through elections since 1994, and never has this, even 1994, with the little preparation that there was better than now. And I just feel that, or the AIC feels that the preparation and the readiness of the IEC was also not there. So there's two factors, and when you put these factors together, you find that this is what happens. 27 to 30%, we can't have that. We can never have that. This is the lowest ever.
Right, and yeah, you're absolutely right. There are real concerns that this election is breaking records, but for all the wrong reasons. That in mind, though, what's your assessment of how the IEC has performed? I mean, in the briefing yesterday, a lot of issues were raised, including matters around an error on the ballot involving another political party, but also issues around people's names actually not appearing on the system where they registered to vote.
Well, as the AIC, we've had quite a few of these cases. One person called this afternoon and said, I'm 18 years old. I became 18 in May. I registered on the 19th of September. I'm nowhere to be found. And then they still say to me, I'm underage. We had another person that registered and that has voted in a voting station all for 4 years. And all of a sudden, she's disappeared, and she's now in Noordgesig, from the inner city to Noordgesig. And then there was also another person that when getting to the voting station, as she was about to be given a ballot, they said to her, sorry, here's a message here. You cannot get a ballot because you must get an MEC 7 form, and that needs to come from Kempton Park. And it was confusing because MEC forms had to be there at the voting station. So there was a whole lot of things that actually made people despondent and that kept people outside from voting. So I think the IEC was definitely not ready for this elections. And I think the AIC is one party that has never really criticized the IEC, but this time there's a lot of flaws.
Can we expect some kind of formal objection to how this election was carried out?
It definitely was not fair. Definitely, because if you kept people outside, I mean, maybe that was the 3 votes that we needed to win somewhere, and we didn't get those votes. So definitely, it was not fair.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. Really do appreciate your time. That there is Margaret Arnolds. She's the acting treasurer of the African Independent Congress, getting their initial thoughts as we continue watching those results trickle in. And I'll tell you what, there is a sense, if you like, that this vote in and of itself could be very different if more people rocked up. But here's some context that we also need to keep in mind. I mean, typically, massive democracies around the world are determined with a voter turnout of around 30% or so. South Africa has always bucked that trend. Typically, we've always had a lot of people rocking up to actually cast their ballot. Back in 2016, for instance, more than 50% of eligible voters rocking up to make their mark. So with that in mind, with the global trends in mind, I wonder if any other people will be a whole lot more charitable to how this vote has actually been carried out, especially when you consider the very unique circumstances in which it was taking place.